Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Jason White. This is Jason's Weird Reads, and today I am going to attempt to do a book review for the Reformatory by Tananarive. I finished this about 2 weeks ago, but it's one of those books that sort of sticks in your mind for many reasons. I remember having read one part of it that was very intense, like chapters 12 and 13, and after reading those, I made a TikTok video in my son's room because it moved me to the point of almost tears because of my son. So let's get into the review, shall we? So The Reformatory by Tananarive. This is her most recent book. It was released, I believe, on Halloween Day. I'm disappointed that I went looking for it at Walmart and Costco, places like that, thinking that they would have it. I thought that her publisher, I guess, was bigger. I don't know, but it wasn't. There wasn't even at my local bookstore, Indigo Chapters. So what's up with that? Like, seriously, this is a very important book. I think it tells a very important story of our history, and it's, stuff like this is still happening in certain parts of the world, I'm sure. I mean, this doesn't go back all that far. The Reformatory takes place in 1950, which is like 70 years away, but the things that were similarly happening to indigenous people of Canada was happening in like the 60s and 70s, and it's mind-boggling just how recent some of this stuff has been happening. But this book takes place in 1950 Florida, in Graceland, I can't remember. It's Tananarive's her fictional town that she made up, that a lot of her fiction appears in. I think it's something like Graceland. But we start off with Robbie and his sister Gloria, I believe. They're walking home, I forget from where, from church or something, and they run into one of the most powerful kids. I think they're passing their property, and one of the most they're passing the property of the most powerful family, like, in the area. They own pretty much everything, and their kid is like hitting on Robbie's sister, and he doesn't like it. Like, he's pretty blunt about what he wants from her, and so he pretty much tells him, like, hey, lay off, that's my sister you're talking about. And this kid pushes him, and Robbie defends himself by kicking him in the leg. No harm is done, but the father sees it happen, and he comes rushing over. The next day, Robbie is picked up from home by the police, and he's judged and sentenced that very day to 6 months at the Reformatory. It's like a school for boys who've done bad. Now, this isn't just for kids of color. It's also, there's some white kids in this school as well. But the things that happen in this school are horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. And it's not like a torture thing, the immediately entering in there, but they have like a set of rules that if you break any one of them, you're going to end up in the fun house. Now, I don't really want to name what the name of, like, this Reformatory school is based on a real school that Tananarive's uncle passed away in. And she didn't know that her uncle had passed away in this until her mother died, which was like 7-8 years ago when her mother died, and they came across some records and whatnot. And the school itself is, you know what, I can't remember the name of it. Probably should have looked it up before doing this video. But it was well known for being very, very bad place for children to go to, especially children of color. A lot of people died there, and they had their own like graveyard. Any school with a graveyard with a lot of kids in it, obviously something's not right with that. So, getting back on track here, you break one of the rules, which, like I said, there's a ridiculous amount of rules, and it's not easy for a kid to not break the rules. You end up in the fun house. The real name of it is pretty awful. What they do in this fun house is they whip you with a belt, but they whip you so hard that there's been reports in real life that of the fabric, if you didn't take your shirt off, while being whipped, the fabric would get like entwined with the skin. I mean, it causes you to bleed. And just imagine doing this to like 10-year-old boys or 12-year-old boys. So it's a ghost story. This is a ghost story. Robbie, before he even goes to this reformatory school, he's more afraid of the haints. Now, what a haint is, if you don't know, it's ghosts. He's afraid of the ghosts that are in the school. He's heard that it's haunted. It's very much haunted. I mean, there's a lot of ghosts in this place. But ultimately, it's not the ghosts you need to fear. It's the people. Not only he makes friends fairly quickly, but he also makes enemies quickly as well. But that's not even the people you have to worry about. It's the people who run the place and the people who... everyone from the warden below him. You have to worry about all of them, even the ones who feel some sympathy towards these kids as to what's happening to them. And you see some kids die. Now, there's some interesting things that happen in this book. I said you see some kids die, but you don't actually see any kids die. You don't even see kids get harmed, but there's a lot of implication. This one thing that really impressed me with Tananarive Du's writing is that I compared it in that TikTok video to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, don't get me wrong here, there's absolutely no correlation between these two forms of media, but the only similarity is in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you never the first movie, the one from the 70s, the very famous one, you never actually see a chainsaw hit skin. You never actually see any blood or guts. It's all implied, and a lot of people remember the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as being very gory. Tananarive Du uses a very similar device, I would say, in this, in that she creates a lot of tension when it comes time for Robbie to face his own punishment in the reformatory, where you feel the fear and you can't help but feel for these kids that are going through this, but you never actually really see the whip hitting skin. And that is so cleverly done, because your brain comes up with all the details that it's brilliantly done, man. Like, it goes on for about 2 chapters, and a lot of it's just the setup, and that it got me kind of teary-eyed because it was making me think of my own son. And I feel for these kids. Like, it's incredible. It's heartbreaking what people have done to children. I mean, it's awful. So this book has a very hard-hitting edge to it. I mean, I would if you have any issues with seeing harm done to children without it actually even happening, if that tension is something that might trigger you, I would totally avoid this book, honestly. And there's another scene that's very, very intense when Gloria and her the person who's taking care of her, I can't remember her name either. I'm terrible with character names. They're coming home from visiting Robbie at the reformatory, and they get pulled over by the police. They're 2 colored people in a car driving alone. 2 colored women, or 1 young girl, and she's, I think Gloria, the sister, is like 16, and an older colored woman being pulled over by the police. In a situation today, that could cause a lot of trouble. Just imagine being in Florida in 1950s. This creates a very, very intense scene as well that was very difficult to read, but I'm going to stop spoiling the book and just say that I was very impressed by this book, as I knew I would be. I mean, it's Tananarive Du, right? She is a master, and this is, I would say, her masterpiece. It should be maybe required reading. The book is very long. I think it's over 500 pages, close to 600 if I'm correct, but it went by so quickly. I think it's because you get swept up in those hard scenes that are hard to read, and it's not that you want to read it, it's just that you're reading so fast to see what happens. And honestly, this book tore me up, and it made me feel things quite intensely, and so yeah, I highly recommend this book. It was well put together, well written. The prose was just fantastic. The characters are all believable. There's scenes in here that any other writer, including writers like Stephen King, I think would have maybe botched up or made made my alarms go off, saying, you know, this doesn't read as realistic, especially when it came to the ghosts or the haints. There's just sometimes it seems like it's all fake, you know. When you're reading other authors do it, it's just not done in a way that makes you fully suspend your disbelief. But Tananarive made me suspend my disbelief. Maybe it's because we got to all the really hard stuff before the ghosts really took over in the story, which is something else I should mention. Although this is primarily a ghost story, you don't know that until about a quarter to halfway into the book, so be patient. This book is more about getting attached to the characters before the ghost story kicks in, and I don't know if it's everyone's cup of tea for that reason. It's not flash bang boom right away. It's building up a lot of tension in regards to the Reformatory itself and how awful this place is, and you've got to be patient, I think, in order to really appreciate it. If you don't fall for the characters right away, then this book will fall flat for you. But it wrapped me up almost immediately. I mean, just Tananarive's writing is enough to capture me and my imagination and my utmost respect. So there you have it, my review for the Reformatory. I don't really do too many single book reviews because they don't get a lot of views at all. Like the last one I did was for Conquest, I think, by Robbie Dorman, and that review just tanked. It was incredible how bad that video did in regards to other videos. But I wanted to do this for the Reformatory because of how important I think this book is. It's a shame that it doesn't have a wider distribution. I think it should, and I think this book should be read in schools maybe at some point, because it tells a nasty truth about our history, and we can't just close our eyes against that. In fact, you're probably going to find this book banned in Florida at some point because of the truths it tells. All you need to do is hand it over to one of those evil politicians down there, and you'll probably see it happen. Anyways, thank you for watching, my weird friends. I hope that you're all safe and that your children are all safe, and I hope you're all being creative and happy. Until next time, happy reading.